that I will convey today to the meeting. I'm right now in a very good minutes breakfast that we are having. It's very cold. Good morning, High Representative. We are 6 months coming to rest.
Sorry, you can just move to this so that all the time.
Like this very well. The next step very clear that you explain something about the Atlantic. Thank you very much.
No problem.
How are you? Well, yes. Yes, we are going to have a meeting with the Eastern Partnership, and we have to rethink about how do we work with the Eastern partners, because 3 has become candidates. 1 is very far away of the European Union, Belarus, so it's a very heterogeneous set of countries, and a regional approach to them has to be taken into consideration, but certainly it's becoming more difficult. It is the first ministerial meeting with the Eastern partners since the beginning of the war in Ukraine, so certainly we will talk a lot about it. And then it comes the Council, and this Council is going to be very long and difficult, because we have in the agenda Iran, we have in the agenda sanctions against Russia, the 9th package. We are still not there. We haven't yet finished. You know, there is a certain confusion. When me and the President of the Commission announce the sanctions, we are just announcing proposals. I said many times it's the Council who decides. And the 27 ministers have different approaches. So since we made the announcement of the proposal is not a decision, the proposal has been discussed, and I thought this morning we were able to say green light. It's still not the case. Maybe by the end of the day, but there are some questions to be still agreed. I hope we will end the day, or maybe tomorrow, but I cannot say that it's going to be easy, because there are different views among member states. Important to make the differences between proposition and decision. Decisions belong to the Council. Iran, certainly Iran, second execution. On Friday evening I had a long conversation with the Foreign Affairs Minister of Iran. You can imagine, certainly talk about this execution. I expressed the concern of the European Union, the condemnation, and the sanctions that are going to be taken today, both for humanitarian reasons and for the Iranian support to Ukraine. Iran continues saying that they haven't been delivering drones to Russia after the starting of the war, and they don't plan to send rockets to Russia. Let's see. Then, last news, also worrisome, is Kosovo. We thought that things were calm after the agreement, but once again the Kosovo Serbs answered to the arrest of a former Kosovo Serb police, with a lot of trouble in the streets, blocking the roads, and even throwing stun grenades to some of our police officers. You can understand this is not acceptable. I know that 2 parts are willing to de-escalate, and I am strongly calling to the 2 of them to do it. But in this case, I was in touch with Prime Minister Kurti. Miroslav Lajcak was in touch with President Vučić in Serbia. These alterations of the public order, this violence, are not affordable. They have to go back to the dialogue. They have to overcome this tendency to fighting in the street, to creating blockades. It's not the way of looking for an agreement. It's not the way to continue the talks. It's not the way to look for solutions. It's not the way to look for the normalization process in which they are engaged.
Mr. High Rep, you will meet with Georgian minister today? What is your main message to the country that we are waiting for candidate status or receiving as Ukrainian?
We'll talk about it.
Hi, we saw Twitter from Oliver Marquez that 70 billion euros will be announced on Eastern Partnership programs, and like railway, the electricity infrastructure. So, can we expect this announcement today of this money?
Commissioner Borrell has said it has good reasons, no? It's going to be one of the issues on the meeting, certainly.
What can the EU do against Iran, and what should she do against Iran?
We are going to approve a very, very tough package of sanctions. It was not easy. It was not an easy conversation with my colleague, the foreign affairs minister in Iran, because we talk about what's happening inside the country, the supply of arms to Russia, and these two people being executed. Iran has to understand that the European Union will condemn strongly and will take any action we can in order to support Iran women, to support the peaceful demonstrators, and certainly rejection of this death penalty.
Apparently, Qatar tries to influence, tries to buy European MEPs. What does this mean for the relationship with Qatar, and what should be the consequences?
Look, as you said, apparently I am not a judge. There is a process ongoing. Certainly the news are very worrisome, very, very worrisome. We are facing some events, some facts that certainly worries me as a former president of the European Parliament also. There is nothing and no one being referred to, neither from the External Action Service, nor from the delegations. We are not affected by that. There is the police and judiciary actions. We have to follow these actions. We are very much certainly concerned about this news, but I have to act according not only with the facts but the proven evidence. I cannot go below the judiciary statements. Understand? I sure you understand that this is very, very, very grave accusations. Thank you.
Mr. Minister.
Good morning from Brussels. Today we have important EU Eastern Partnership meeting. Regarding the Eastern Partnership, we will confirm the EU support for the entire region as well as for the Eastern Partnership. The validity has actually increased after the change of geopolitical situation, and we will discuss how Eastern Partnership can further contribute to strengthening the stability in the region. Regarding the FAC meeting, Russian aggression tops our agenda. Last week, three ministers from Slovakia visited Kiev. It was Minister of Economy, Minister of Foreign Affairs, and Minister of Defense. The things they saw really put things into perspective. They saw cold, destruction, no electricity, no water, and death. But they also have seen gratitude of Ukrainians towards our help, and resolve to fight against aggression, and resolve to liberate their land and their people. Now is no time for fatigue. Now it's no time to talk about peace or ceasefire that will strengthen Russian position. Now it's time for the EU support for Ukraine, military support, economic support, and humanitarian support. This winter is going to be crucial, and if we stop now, all our efforts so far will be in vain because Russia will win this war. Therefore, EU has to confirm the support for Ukraine, and this winter is going to be essential. Thank you.
Buenos días.
Hoy tendremos un nuevo Consejo de Asuntos Exteriores donde habrá dos puntos que serán fundamentales: Ucrania e Irán. En estos momentos donde llevamos ya demasiados meses de guerra, casi 10 millones de personas se encuentran sin calefacción, sin electricidad, en condiciones inaceptables. Es el momento de que los europeos sigamos actuando y actuemos con decisión para paliar esta situación. Los 18.000 millones de ayuda a Ucrania tienen que llegar lo antes posible y, desde luego, España hoy alzará su voz para que esto ocurra lo antes posible. En el caso de Irán, tenemos una situación totalmente inaceptable, donde se multiplican las detenciones, los fallecimientos de manera violenta, y hay 21 personas en estos momentos con pena de muerte. Hemos condenado ya claramente las ejecuciones en Irán y lo seguiremos haciendo, y yo espero que hoy todos los europeos tengamos una posición fuerte y común contra esta situación que ya dura demasiado. Vamos a tener ahora un desayuno de trabajo donde analizaremos el partenariado oriental, tendremos una reunión de trabajo con nuestros homólogos de esa región, entre las que se encuentra Ucrania, y donde tan importante es en estos momentos mantener la interlocución y la relación para la estabilización de toda la región, que por supuesto recibe de primera mano todo el impacto de la agresión ilegal, injusta e injustificada de Ucrania. Aprovecharé también mi presencia hoy en Bruselas para lanzar la iniciativa Equipo Europa sobre migraciones, junto a mis colegas francesa e italiano, y también de Níger y Mauritania, y con los representantes de la Comisión, porque es más necesario que nunca que el partenariado con los países de tránsito y origen se refuerce. Y terminaré la jornada en un seminario de digitalización en América Latina, junto a representantes de la Comisión y mi colega eslovena. Al finalizar los encuentros daré una rueda de prensa y contestaré a todas sus preguntas.
Us about Georgia, Ukraine, and Moldova. They are going to be, they intend to be in the future members of this organization, and Georgia particularly is waiting for candidate status.
I had the occasion to meet with my Georgian colleague a few weeks ago in Madrid, and I conveyed the message that there is, of course, a European pattern for them that must end within the European family. This is the message that I will convey today during the meeting, and right now in a very few minutes during the breakfast that we are having. It's very important this time, the months ahead. We are 6 months from the Spanish presidency of the European Council, for these countries to engage in a dialogue with all of us, to get preparing very well for the next step. But it's very clear that there is a place in the European family for them. Thank you very much. Al final.
So good morning. Today we are having a very important meeting with our Eastern partners, and we expect to have a frank exchange and to show a strong message of our support to them in these challenging times provoked by the Russian aggression against Ukraine. Ukraine is facing great hardships due to the continued massive Russian attacks against its civilian infrastructure in these winter conditions, and we need to continue providing them our full support in order to enable them get through this difficult period. I would also like to underline the importance of us to concentrate on the topic of security food prices. We need to continue assisting the most affected countries, and Croatia, through its ports, Adriatic ports, stands ready to contribute to its solution. And when it comes to southern neighbourhood, we need to even strengthen our work with them, and this comprises of our cooperation with regards to connectivity, with regards to security, and with regards to energy. And with regard to energy, Croatia, with its energy infrastructure, has also a role to play. Thank you very much.
If I could ask a question.
Good morning. Once more we meet to discuss most important issues of the day, and there's not a single more important issue than Russia's war against Ukraine. Unfortunately, with many things that we have to discuss, it feels as if we are a little bit stuck in the cold mud. Hope that we are not frozen in that mud when it comes to sanctions, when it comes to microfinancial assistance to Ukraine, and weapon deliveries. And the real hope is that we are not waiting for something additionally horrible to happen in Ukraine for us to get unstuck. That we can discuss and we can find decisions and we can agree with unanimity on the most important things that we need to do in order to support Ukraine. Lithuania's position will remain as always: more sanctions, more assistance, more military assistance, especially heavy equipment that needs to be sent to Ukraine in order for them to reclaim the territory back, and finally to get an agreement on the 18 billion that needs to be reimbursed starting early next year.
Minister, Friday's meeting of the ambassadors on the ninth package of sanctions ended without a compromise. Apparently some countries would like to have some relations on.
Well, as from the very beginning, Lithuania was not supportive of derogations, even though some of the derogations could have made our situation possibly easier, but we thought that sanctions are there for a reason. They are not there to be avoided or eased. So yes, we are participating in the discussion. We're trying to maintain unanimity, but definitely we're not in favor of derogations.
Today you will start meeting with Eastern Partnership countries about the line of Georgia. This status, how important is to discuss with them the challenges which is very important in the region, and for example in Georgia there needs to be information that EU will fund the Black Sea region cable with electricity to ensure EU and Georgia connectivity.
Okay.
How important is this project?
Well, when it comes to membership status, it is unfortunate to see Georgia and other Eastern Partnership countries, well, I mean, two Moldova and Ukraine, standing on a separate rail tracks when it comes to approach to EU. As you very well know, Lithuania was always very much supportive to Georgia's accession into EU, that it would get a candidate status. But during the several last years, I can say that the key to going back to the same faster track to EU remains in the hands of Georgian government. And I would definitely very much like to see Georgian government acting more proactively, with more vigor, more power, and more determination to get moving to the candidate status. So far, we have not seen very encouraging steps.
The process is going on in the country because the ruling parties with some opposition party are trying to cooperate to all criteria which is known for all the last 12 recommendations.
Yes.
How can you express your opinion toward this? Do you see some progress in this process?
Well, the progress that would, as I mentioned, move Georgia's accession train onto the faster track that has not reached those who would be very much willing to support. As I mentioned before, it feels as if we're stuck with basically on every conversation point that we're having on Ukraine. Thank you.
I'd ask a question. The Russia's war in Ukraine has been going on for many months now. We're seeing huge costs for civilians. Do you see any light at the end of the tunnel of how this conflict could end?
Well, I think that Ukraine has made it quite clear in which way this conflict could end and should end, and on our side we need to continue providing them all support it needs, and I really do hope that this moment will come sooner than later. Thank you.
Good morning. Today is a very important day here in Council. First, I would like to raise the issue of Iran and the executions that are currently happening. I called the Iranian minister on Thursday, of course expressing the Finnish condemnation of the executions that are happening in Iran, and it's very important that we discuss this topic today. Of course, in addition, we speak about Iran's weapon export to Russia. Irani's weapons are used against Ukrainian civilians and citizens. And we are, of course, expecting also Iran to come to the JCPOA agreement as soon as possible. We are extremely concerned about the news that IAEA is bringing from Iran, that nuclear development is ongoing there towards the nuclear weapon. The second topic is about the Eastern Partnership here. We are particularly looking at the situation in Moldova and all the possible measures that the European Union is taking to support Moldovan development and peaceful development in Moldova. We are currently shocked about the cut of the electricity in Moldova and all the other implications of the Russian war against Ukraine. And finally, the issue of Ukraine and support to the Ukraine, of course, has to stay firm. It's very important that we continue also financial support to Ukraine. Finland is very supportive to the European Peace Facility. We have also had already 10 times military packages towards Ukraine. And we are looking also, of course, the big financial package to be finalized so that Ukraine gets that help that it's need. The 18 billion euros is a very important sum of money for Ukraine for the coming year. Thank you.
One question. Russia's war in Ukraine has been going on for a very long time now. There's a lot of costs for civilians. Do you see a light at the end of the tunnel? Do you see a scenario of how this conflict could actually end?
Well, I'm just coming from New York, and I had a meeting with His Excellency Mr. Guterres in the United Nations, and of course congratulated UN for the grain trade, grain deal that has been made, or the continuation of the grain deal between Ukraine and Russia. Of course, this gives some light in the end of the tunnel, that at least the global consequences, like the food security, has been helped through this UN facilitated deal. Of course, we are also appreciating the IAEA's work in vis-à-vis the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, so that the nuclear security is somehow taken care of by the international agency. And the third positive issue, of course, has been the exchange of the prisoners that is happening between Ukraine and Russia. But these are only very, very small lights in the end of the tunnel. At the moment, I think we have to be prepared that the war is continuing. We have to be prepared to support Ukraine throughout this very, very difficult winter.
Mr. Minister, a follow-up. Do you think it's possible for this war to end under Putin's regime? So as long as Putin is in the Kremlin, do you foresee any end to this war?
Well, at the moment, I haven't seen any tries or initiatives from the Russian side to end this war. And of course, the most simple answer to this is that Russia should withdraw from the areas that it has occupied from Ukraine. That's the way, of course, to finish this war.
Mr. Minister, you will meet with your colleagues from Georgia, Moldova and Ukraine. You know that our country is waiting for candidate status. What is your main message today, and how we can reshuffle the Eastern Partnership?
Well, of course, the Eastern Partnership is extremely important today, and it's good to meet with the ministers here, and we are particularly following, of course, the very vulnerable situation of Moldova at the moment. The war is affecting Moldova directly, and I think we have to have the full solidarity towards Moldova. At the same time, the financial package that we are planning for Ukraine is very important to finalize the 18 billion euros and of course continue also with the European Peace Facility. Finland has been sending 10 military packages already to Ukraine, and we will continue both humanitarian support and other support. And then the wider region, it's very important that we cooperate with other Eastern Partnership countries like Georgia and others to help them and to get the cooperation even closer between European Union and Eastern Partnership countries.
Tell us about additional financial support to Eastern Partnership countries to refresh this initiative and to help more.
Well, I think at the moment this is particularly one of the topics that we will discuss. What are the key needs of these countries? That's the reason why we meet the ministers here, and how we could support in the best possible way the countries. We had actually a little bit more than 1 week ago a very successful visit of the Baltic and Nordic ministers in Kiev to Ukraine, and of course the elements of Eastern Partnership, the future of the Ukraine and Moldova's future members of European Union and so forth were discussed. But of course we have to look the whole Eastern Partnership area, how we could strengthen that cooperation.
And about the candidate status, future candidate status for Georgia, do you support it?
Well, the Georgia, of course, as we have been discussing also with the Georgia minister about the steps that needs to be taken also in the internal development of Georgia, and we are looking, of course, forward when all these requirements are implemented. Also, Georgia would get closer to European Union. Thank you.
Dobrze, proszę powiedzieć, wszyscy Państwo będą gotowi. Wszyscy gotowi? Dzień dobry Państwu. Zaczynamy dzisiaj bardzo ważną Radę do Spraw Zagranicznych, poświęconą przede wszystkim najważniejszemu tematowi, jakim jest agresja rosyjska na Ukrainę, ale w nieco szerszym niezwykle wymiarze, bo dzisiaj także spotkanie z ministrami spraw zagranicznych krajów Partnerstwa Wschodniego. To jest ten wymiar, nad którym bardzo mocno pracujemy, żeby stał się tą drogą do w przyszłości członkostwa w Unii Europejskiej dla naszych wschodnich sąsiadów. Dzisiaj będziemy rozmawiać o tym, jak agresja rosyjska wpłynęła na perspektywy naszej współpracy z państwami na wschód od nas, jak te państwa wspierać, no i przede wszystkim jak dzisiaj wzmacniać to, co robimy od 24 lutego, czyli wzmacniać obronę Ukrainy. Myślę, że to, co dzisiaj będzie niezwykle ważne w tej dyskusji, to ocena sytuacji i też ocena dotychczasowych działań całej Unii Europejskiej, NATO także, bo w tym wymiarze również oczywiście współpracujemy. Niezwykle ważne jest to, i dzisiaj ja o tym na pewno będę mówił, żeby nie dawać się w jakikolwiek sposób wpędzać w takie rozważania o tym, że rzekomo Ukraina miałaby oddawać Rosji jakieś części swojego terytorium, albo że Rosja ma prawo oczekiwać gwarancji bezpieczeństwa od kogokolwiek. To jest po prostu strategiczny błąd tego rodzaju rozważania nawet, bo to nie Rosja potrzebuje dzisiaj gwarancji bezpieczeństwa, to Europa potrzebuje gwarancji bezpieczeństwa od Rosji. My będziemy o tym dzisiaj bardzo dużo dyskutowali. Poza tym także tematy bieżące, wzrost napięcia na Bałkanach, przede wszystkim między Serbią a Kosowem, także szersze tematy globalne, kwestia tego, co dzieje się w Iranie, kwestia również potencjalnego zaangażowania Iranu w różne niekorzystne zjawiska globalne, także związane z agresją rosyjską na Ukrainę i jeszcze kilka innych tematów. Dzisiaj do 17:30 tutaj jest dyskusja zaplanowana.
Panie ministrze, ambasadorowie w piątek rozmawiali na temat 9. pakietu sankcji. Było oczekiwanie, że będzie zgoda. Dość nieoczekiwanie pojawiły się propozycje grupy krajów, żeby jakieś wyłączenia zastosować do 9. pakietu. Jak Polska to komentuje?
My cały czas podkreślamy, że sankcje powinny być jak najdotkliwsze, jak najsurowsze, jak najmniej powinno być tam wyjątków. Natomiast też doskonale wszyscy Państwo, którzy śledzą ten proces, wiecie, że przy każdym pakiecie, przy każdym planie tego rodzaju pojawiają się różnego rodzaju próby wyłączenia czy łagodzenia. Zawsze takie dyskusje się toczą. Tak jest również i tym razem, ale te rozmowy będą dalej prowadzone. Mamy nadzieję, że jeśli jakiekolwiek wyłączenia będą, to będą one jak najrzadsze, bo głównym celem sankcji jest po prostu doprowadzenie do tego, żeby Rosja przegrała wojnę.
views about sanctions towards Russia? Do you consider them to be strong enough?
Well, they always could be a little bit stronger, a little bit more severe. We are always, as Polish government, we're always opting for the most severe approach, because the main purpose of sanctions is to help Ukraine win this war, to defeat this Russian imperialism. And we will be always striving for more, we'll be always striving for more severe sanctions until this goal is achieved. But obviously, what is very important at this point is also remaining consistent in sanctions, but also in policy, in decision making. So we will be discussing today at this Foreign Affairs Council that we should avoid at all costs any deliberations as to whether Ukraine should cede any land or any form of sovereignty, any public deliberations about, for example, guarantees of safety for Russia is a strategic mistake. It's Europe that needs guarantees from Russia. It's not Russia that needs guarantees, because Russia is not threatened by anyone else. It's Russia is a threat for Europe.
Any expectations about timeline when they can be adopted?
Well, we hope so. We hope that it will happen very smoothly, as so far the space since February 24 has been quite accelerated compared to the situation before. Obviously, it's always there's always something left to be desired, but we are continuously striving forward, discussing with our partners, and in the spirit of unity, of European unity, which is absolutely important, and it's our top priority. We hope that it will be achieved swiftly and smoothly. Thank you very much.
Tak naprawdę ambasadorowie dzisiaj wieczorem zajmują się tymi sankcjami, a pan wykorzysta tę okazję, spotkanie z ministrami, żeby potwierdzić stanowisko dotyczące jak najjutrzejszych sankcji?
Z pewnością będziemy dzisiaj rozmawiali o konsekwencjach agresji na Ukrainę i o tym, jak powinna Unia Europejska na to reagować. Nie będziemy wchodzić szczegółowo w temat zapisów 9. pakietu sankcyjnego, natomiast z całą pewnością w naszym stanowisku dzisiaj zostanie podkreślone to, że skuteczność sankcji zależy także od tego, aby one były szczelne, aby nie było wyłączeń, nie było wyjątków, aby nie było możliwości ich omijania. To jest absolutnie podstawowe i będziemy dzisiaj o tym mówili. Ja na pewno o tym powiem w trakcie dyskusji. Dziękuję bardzo.
Morning, everybody. It's a busy day today. This morning there'll be a big focus on strengthening the Eastern Partnership. And we have many guests in terms of Eastern Partnership countries, ministers here. And then as the day moves on, as you would expect, a big focus on strengthening our sanctions package against Russia in the context of their continuing aggression against Ukraine. I think it is worth noting, as the temperatures start to fall here, we are literally seeing millions of people living in horrific conditions with no power in Ukraine because of deliberate targeting by Russia of civilians in terms of inflicting suffering on a broad population. That is a crime in terms of both aggression and a crime against humanity. And I think that Europe's resolve needs to strengthen and to ensure that there is a cost for the Kremlin of this continuing approach to the conflict in Ukraine. And I think that will be agreed probably this evening, but certainly there'll be strong support for it today. The shape of the 9th sanctions package is pretty clear. There'll also be a strong discussion in relation to Iran. I understand this morning there has been another execution of someone who was protesting. I think there's no doubt but that we will also extend the targeted sanctions package against individuals in Iran who are responsible for the unacceptable response to protest in Iran. And of course a continued concern also in terms of the supply of drones to Russia, which are being used to target civilians in Ukraine. There is another important element in terms of the relationship with Iran that I think we will focus on today as well, and that's on trying to find a way forward on the JCPOA. And despite the tensions and indeed the sanctions that will be agreed today, I think there is a desire to try and find a way to move forward the Iranian nuclear deal, which I think makes sense for Iran, but also for the rest of the world, to ensure that we have complete transparency in the future in terms of an Iran that is not looking to pursue a nuclear weapon. So a lot on the agenda today, as well as a whole range of other things. So Thank you.
Not under agenda today, but coming up this week, a very important First States Kind Summit with ASEAN leaders. The geopolitics behind this, the differences of opinion when it comes to Russia. How do you think, what's the best way to approach these differences and bridge the gaps?
Well, I mean, the best way to approach differences on Russia is to talk and to deal in facts and international law. And if we allow a powerful country like Russia, who are a military superpower, to invade their neighbours, to try to change international borders by military force, well, then that has a consequence, because it creates a precedent for other parts of the world as well. And I think the case that the EU will make, and the case that other countries will make, is that the world can't simply allow a situation to continue where one powerful country is looking to effectively annex part of another country next door because they feel they have the military power to be able to do that. That is contrary to every standard in international law and multilateralism that the EU stands for. And I think that when the case is made, that it's very hard to argue against that. Obviously, countries have political ties, they have economic interests, they have security interests, and so on. But I think at its most fundamental, this is one country invading another, brutalizing civilian populations in order to try and get its way. And I think the world has to take a stand against that. And I think the EU will make a very strong case. And there are many countries across ASEAN that understand that only too well.
Minister, can I ask a question? Today you will also meet ministers from Eastern Partnership
Yes.
countries. So how do this is first ministerial after this brutal war? How do you think Eastern Partnership project is it actual? Because three of them, Georgia, Moldova and Ukraine, already associated members, and two of them have candidate status, and Georgia in European perspective. So how do you see the future of this?
Well, I mean, for me, I think the Eastern Partnership is more important than it's ever been. The war in Ukraine and Russia's aggression is impacting on so many things, but this relationship too. I think many Eastern Partnership countries are now looking at their own security in a way that they wouldn't have been doing a year ago. I think the prize and the attraction of EU membership in terms of economic and political stability for the future is something that in many ways is seen now through a new lens because of aggression coming from the East. So we have a lot to talk about with our Eastern partners. And I think today, I hope, will be a very useful meeting to take that relationship forward. Okay? Well, it is damaging, and we need to get to the bottom of it, and we need to have, obviously, a full and transparent investigation so that we can have an explanation for what's happened. The European Parliament is a very important institution. I was a member of it in the past, but it's a big part of European democracy. And this is a scandal that we need to expose the truth around so that we can ensure it doesn't happen again. Thank you.
Dobré dopoledne. Dnes budeme mít druhý den jednání Rady pro zemědělství a rybolov.
Good morning. Today we will hold the second day of our Agri-Fish Council.
Tím důležitým tématem, kterým jsme začali včera, jsou rybolovná práva pro rok 2023 ve vodách zemí EU i mimo Evropskou unii.
The important topic that we already started yesterday are the fishing opportunities for 2023 for EU and non-EU waters.
Včera jsme celý den jednali a máme připravený první kompromisní návrh, který dnes předložím kolegům, ministrům zemědělství, popřípadě pro rybářství, a budeme o tom dále jednat.
Yesterday we had negotiations all day and we managed to prepare the first draft of the compromise that today I will present to the Ministers for Agriculture and Fisheries.
Jsem přesvědčený, že tento kompromisní návrh je dobrým podkladem k tomu, abychom dosáhli finální dohody, aby evropští rybáři mohli od začátku příštího roku rybařit podle nových pravidel, věděli, jak na tom jsou.
I believe that this first draft of the compromise is a good starting point for us to reach a final agreement so that the European fishermen and fisherwomen can start fishing on the 1st of January 2023 according to the new rules and conditions.
Jak jsem řekl, budeme i dnes jednat a budeme jednat tak dlouho, dokud nedosáhneme finální dohody.
As I mentioned, we will continue our discussions today and we will keep talking as long as necessary to reach the final consensus.
Dalším důležitým bodem dnešního jednání budou strategické plány, v podstatě nová společná zemědělská politika. Všechny národní strategické plány byly schváleny Evropskou komisí, kromě jedné výjimky.
The next topic on our agenda today are the national strategic plans and the common agriculture policy in general. The European Commission has already approved all national strategic plans but one.
Dnes se budeme bavit o tom, jak jednotlivé členské státy budou uvádět do praxe ty nové strategické plány. Nebude to jednoduché, bude nutné nastavit IT systémy, metodiku, legislativu a to nejdůležitější, bude nutné seznámit všechny zemědělce s novými podmínkami.
Today we will talk about how the individual European member states will implement these national strategic plans into practice, and it won't be an easy task. We will have to talk about new IT measures, new methodologies, new legislations, and last but not least, we will have to also educate our farmers on the topic.
Samozřejmě budeme mít i další témata, jako jsou komoditní trhy, welfare zvířat a důležité téma pesticidy. Ale o tom všem budu hovořit večer na tiskové konferenci.
And of course there will be other topics that we will tackle, namely the commodity markets, animal welfare, pesticides, but these all I will discuss later on today during my press conference.
Děkuji.
Thank you.
Bonjour à toutes et à tous. Donc depuis hier, nous sommes réunis en Conseil européen des ministres pour les négociations annuelles sur les TAC et quotas de pêche. Je crois que c'est un moment qui est important pour les pêcheurs européens, pour la souveraineté alimentaire et économique aussi de notre continent. Et donc nous avons là 2 jours et aussi 2 nuits importantes pour toute l'activité économique et bien évidemment pour la préservation aussi de la biodiversité marine et des ressources halieutiques. L'enjeu pour la France, c'est sur l'anguille, de permettre d'avoir une activité économique sur les façades littorales qui se poursuivent. L'enjeu, c'est également sur les stocks partagés, par exemple sur le bar, sur le lieu jaune ou encore sur la raie brunette, et d'avoir des capacités de pêche qui soient à la hauteur, là aussi, des avis scientifiques et pour reconnaître les efforts qui ont été faits par les pêcheurs depuis des années. Et puis, on peut, je crois, se féliciter de l'accord qu'il y a pu avoir sur les stocks partagés avec le Royaume-Uni et qui qui là nous permettent là aussi de pouvoir continuer à développer l'activité économique de nos pêcheurs et de le faire dans un cadre qui est celui de la politique de pêche commune. Au-delà de tout ça, je crois que l'ambition collective et au fond l'obligation que l'on a en Européens, c'est de reconnaître les efforts qui ont pu être réalisés par les professionnels depuis des années, c'est de tenir compte de tous ces avis scientifiques qui sont importants pour justement prévoir la pêche dans les années à venir, et puis c'est d'avoir une action résolue et je crois volontariste sur la préservation de la ressource halieutique et de faire en sorte que dans les prochaines années, beaucoup de jeunes pêcheurs viennent s'installer. Donc voilà ce que je veux vous dire aujourd'hui. C'est en ce qui me concerne nos premiers Conseil européen TAC et quota. C'est un moment, je crois, important pour tous les représentants qui sont aussi, pour tous les ministres, parce qu'on est dans un moment aussi où nos pêcheurs ont vécu des juxtapositions de crise. Brexit, Covid, inflation, augmentation du coût du carburant, et donc plus que jamais, je crois qu'on doit être soudés, solidaires pour faire en sorte que la souveraineté alimentaire de notre continent se renforce et qu'il y ait encore une attractivité dans ce métier de pêcheur. Merci.
Andreja, muito obrigado.